KWT slaying.
Salama family, Salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. Minister Tayu, say hi to the family.
Greetings, family. How y'all doing tonight?
So, there's a lot of videos being made by Tayo lately. You know why? Because too much happening. Way too much stuff happening. And it portends prophecy coming to pass. Now, we're going to talk about a few things, and I'm going to read some scriptures, and I'm going to put the link out there to invite the family too. So if y'all want to come on, you can. But, I got to go to the old favorite. Got to go to the old favorite. Jeremiah chapter 50. This is the word the Lord spoke through Jeremiah, the prophet, concerning Babylon and the land of the Babylonians. And I know some of y'all don't believe America's Babylon, but, that's your business, right? Verse 2, announce and proclaim among the nations, lift up a banner and proclaim it. Keep nothing back, but say, Babylon will be captured. Baal will be put to shame, Marduk filled with terror. Her images will be put to shame and her idols filled with terror. A nation from the north will attack her and lay waste her land. No one will live in it, both people and animals will flee away. So I know some of y'all be like, I ain't fleeing. Well, the Bible says otherwise, because people and animals are going to be fleeing. In those days and at that time, Yahuwah declares Yahuwah, the people of Israel and the people of Judah together will go in tears to seek the Lord their God. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this because I want to go over to the Septuagint because I talked about that yesterday and read that. At that time, said Yahuwah, I will be an Elohim to the family of Israel, and they shall be to me a people. Thus said Yahuwah, I found him warm in the wilderness with them that were slain with the sword. Go ye and destroy not Israel. The Lord appeared to him from afar. I have loved thee with an everlasting love, therefore have I drawn thee in compassion. So, as I mentioned, Septuagint is a little different. For I will build thee, and thou shalt be built, O Virgin of Israel. Thou shalt yet take thy timbrel and go forth with the party of them that make merry. For ye have planted vineyards on the mountains of Samaria. Plant ye in praise, for it is a day when those that plead on the mountains of Ephraim shall call. Arise ye and go up to Zion, to the Lord your God. For thus said Yahuwah to Jacob, rejoice ye and exult over the head of the nations, make proclamation and praise ye, say, Yahuwah has delivered his people, the remnant of Israel. So Yahuwah has delivered his people, the remnant of Israel. Behold, I bring them from the north and will gather them from the ends of the earth to the feast of the Passover, and shall beget a great multitude, and they shall return hither. Where and when? The feast of the Passover. Could we be going home soon? I don't know. But, a lot of things happening, which makes me wonder. Verse 9, they went forth with weeping. Now, isn't that what we saw in Jeremiah 50? We just read that, right? In those days, at that time, declares Yahuwah, the people of Israel and the people of Judah together will go in tears to seek the Lord their God, right? But at the same time, we see here that Israel going to be weeping during the time what? Of the Passover. I'm just saying, I mean, this Septuagint, I guess we'll find out, right? So they went forward with weeping, and I will bring them back with consolation, causing them to lodge by the channels of waters in a straight way, and they shall not err in it. For I am become a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the words of the Lord, ye nations, and proclaim to the islands afar off, say, he that scattered Israel will also gather him and keep him as one that feeds his flock. For Yahuwah has ransomed Jacob, he has rescued him out of the hand of them stronger than he. And they shall come and shall rejoice in the mount of Zion, and shall come to the good things of Yahuwah, to a land of corn and wine and fruits and cattle and sheep, and their souls shall be as a fruitful tree, and they shall hunger no more. Then shall the virgins rejoice in the assembly of youth, and old men shall rejoice, and I will turn their mourning into joy, and will make them merry. I will expand and cheer with wine the soul of the priests, the sons of Levi, and my people shall be satisfied with my good things. Thus said Yahuwah. A voice was heard in Ramah of lamentation, of weeping and wailing. Rachel would not cease weeping for her children, because they are not. Thus said Yahuwah, let thy voice cease from weeping, and thine eyes from thy tears, for there is a reward for thy works, and they shall return from the land of enemies. They shall what? Return from the land of enemies. See, this is why they don't want you reading all this stuff, right? They shall return from the land of enemies and abiding for thy children. I have heard the sound of Ephraim lamenting. Thou hast chastened me, and I was chastened. I, as a calf, was not taught. Turn thou me, and I shall turn, for thou, the Lord my God. For after my captivity I repented, and after I knew, I groaned for the day of shame, and showed thee that I bore reproach from my youth. Now I'm reading from the Septuagint for those who just came on. Ephraim is a beloved son, a pleasing child to me, for because my words are in him, I will surely remember him. Therefore I made haste him. I will surely have mercy upon him, said Yahuwah. Prepare thyself, O Zion, execute vengeance. Look to thy ways, return, O Virgin of Israel, by the way by which thou wentest. Return, mourning to thy cities. Now remember, Jeremiah chapter 29 of the KJV talks about returning from the place you were taken, you carried away from. Excuse me. How long, O disgraced daughter, wilt thou turn away? For Yahuwah has created safety for a new plantation. Men shall go about in safety. For thus said Yahuwah, they shall yet speak this word in the land of Judah and in the cities thereof, when I shall turn his captivity, blessed by Yahuwah on his righteous holy mountain. And there shall be dwellers in the cities of Judah and in all his land, together with the husbandmen, and shall go forth with the flock. For I have saturated every thirsting soul and filled every hungry soul. Therefore I awake and beheld, and my sleep was sweet to me. Therefore, behold, the day is come, said Yahuwah, when I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and the seed of beast. And it shall come to pass that as I watched over them to pull down and to afflict, so will I watch over them to build and to plant, said Yahuwah. In those days they shall certainly not say the fathers ate sour grapes, and the children's teeth were set on edge. But everyone shall die in his own sin, and the teeth of him that eats sour grapes shall be set on edge. Behold, the day is come, said Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel. So we see all of this mixing with other scriptures like Jeremiah 31:31. So I'm reading this to show that, this particular event is supposed to happen according to, Septuagint, whatever you think about it, during the time of Passover. So before I continue, Minister Tayu, did you want to comment on it?
No, nothing.
All right. Ukraine war. Germany won't block export of its Leopard 2 tanks, foreign minister says. Germany's foreign minister Anna Baerbock has said she would not stand in the way of Poland if it were to send Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. Ukraine has called on the West to provide the German made tanks, which they say will help them defeat Russia. Ukraine's foreign ministry, Dmytro Kuleba, told the BBC that Germany had the power to save the lives of many Ukrainian soldiers, but Germany is yet to agree, and its export laws have stood in Poland's way. On Sunday, Ms. Baerbock said Poland had not yet asked for export permission. For the moment, the question has not been asked, but if we were asked, we would not stand in the way, she told France. So I'm gonna show this video right quick. So Germany's supposed to be sending these tanks to Poland. So here's the thing: NATO is in the midst of this thing big time, right? And it is ranching up, and I think it's near, right? I think it's near where all hell breaks loose.
Is on the brink of another crisis. Tensions are brewing between European powers and Germany over the latter's stand on the Russia Ukraine war. In the past few months, Germany has been at loggerheads with other nations over helping Ukraine defend itself against Russia. Now, Poland is capitalizing on Germany's hesitance to intervene in the war. But what does Poland gain from it? And why is Poland picking fights with Germany? Let's find out. Hello and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of TFI Media Group. I'm your host Akanksha. Let us begin. In the midst of Kyiv's increasingly desperate requests for heavy weapons, which it claims are necessary to turn the tide against Russia's invasion, Warsaw and other NATO allies have been pleading with Germany to grant them permission to deliver the German-made tanks to Ukraine. Berlin is in charge because it must approve foreign donations of the German-built Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Though Germany has now finally relented into giving permission to Ukraine, its behavior has created a shadow of doubt about its commitment to NATO and allies. During the beginning of the war, Germany assisted Ukraine by sending arms and ammunition. But with the war dragging on and its own economy in shambles, it has since distanced itself from picking sides. Ukraine's hopes that Germany would finally decide to supply contemporary battle tanks were dampened by German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, who claimed there was still no international consensus on the subject. Thus, its allies in the region are miffed and tensions are mounting with US. Despite the German stand, Poland's Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki went ahead and said that the country would take an independent decision if deemed necessary. He said, "Permission is a secondary matter. We will either get it quickly or do what we see fit." By cornering Germany, Poland has taken advantage of this opportunity to undermine Germany's position within the European Union. The nation has emerged as a crucial ally of NATO in resisting Moscow's aggression and of the United States in the region since the beginning of war. All diplomatic, military, and humanitarian routes to Ukraine currently run through Warsaw. Poland sees Ukraine war as the opportune time to rise among the European ranks, and Warsaw won't shy away to fight and disregard Germany to attain it.
All right, so Germany's supposed to be sending these tanks, as I read in the article, to Poland. Now, there's another thing that is going on, right? There's a lot going on today. And here we see U.S. Ambassador to OSCE. U.S. will support transfer of F-16 fighter jets by allies of Ukraine. So the U.S. is talking about sending fighter jets to Ukraine. Now, here's the thing. None of these soldiers in the Ukrainian army have been trained to use these tanks or to use these planes. So that means that all of the support, all of the the piloting of these vehicles are going to be NATO people. Minister Tate.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be NATO that pilots these weapons. I mean, it's not like a hunting rifle. You can say, "Here's your gun, point and shoot." I mean, there's triangulation, or targeting of your distant targeting using tanks and all of that, air support for triangulation for the target. I mean, there's so much involved that you can't just have some random Ukrainian soldier who just started fighting last year, to train with a new advanced military weapon. I mean, it's not even like you're using World War II tanks, right? These are advanced computerized tanks, so it has to be a NATO piloted vehicle. So to me, I mean, at this point, is guaranteed World War III, because Russia is going to look at Poland as being part of the war now if Poland brings those tanks into Ukraine. I mean, from Russia's viewpoint, they're going to feel threatened, right? They're going to feel threatened and say, hey, they got these, they're bringing these tanks into the Ukraine, which is going to kill our soldiers, which is going to, harm our objective. Therefore, Poland's an enemy combatant. I mean, that's just common sense, right? So I think they're running out of time here.
Definitely. Brother Karras, welcome. What's your thoughts on this?
Hey, shalom, everyone. It's funny, that article came on up this morning. I had that on the live. And so it's interesting to see what this day had produced, especially with everything going on with the logistics that they're trying to do, they're trying to utilize. And let's just get this out on the table. If they're going to have German equipment, there's going to be German personnel.
That's it.
Operating that equipment. So let's just understand that you're not going to have them training and do a 6 month to. Generally, you spend about almost 12 to 18 months with training of those particular equipments, because there's a lot of different things, a lot of different optics that you have to learn how to use. You have to learn how to use the radio so you can do what? So you can coordinate, right? And be able to spot your folks, right? You have to learn how to actually do mechanized maneuvers so you can learn how to, move in formations, right? Especially with mounted and dismounted troops, troops walking with you or inside the actual vehicle. So you don't do what? So you don't fratricide or run over your troops. Nobody wants to be dead, just right off the bat and get, 2 tons rolled over their feet, right? When things get deployed. And the problem is that happens. So just imagine if you do that, you rush that into the theater, and then it's like, okay, well, how much training do you have on this? I don't know. I guess you just hit the pedal and it goes, and you just do that. Well, it's a little bit more than just going to your fun factory and putting the pedal on the go-kart, right? There's a little bit more that's there, and so. Russia understands that, and let's be honest, the whole world understands that. If you're sending over equipment, you're going to be sending over the people. The equipment is not going to be divorced from the people, and they understand that. This is a declaration, so that's what NATO is stating. Or well, we're going to support, but this is why you had the reluctance of the German people, really, that did not want to have this happen, but it's happening. And now there's going to be a retaliation.
Brother Oral, what's your thoughts?
How you doing, Brother Yacoba, Brother Teyu? How you doing there? I've been okay. I chat with you in a while. How you doing there, KRS? And by the way, thanks for the information about the church in Orlando, because I was able to get in touch with the brothers. So thank you for that. My thoughts is I'm glad the Germans are kind of backing down, because I have to go to Germany this weekend. So I'm gonna be there for a week. So I want to make sure things don't kick off while I'm there, because I don't want to get stuck there. So I think the writing is on the wall. I mean, you folks have had many shows of just showing all this stuff coming to pass. So I think right now, as the people of the Bible, we just, continue to work on making our relationship with the Most High stronger, and just watch for our deliverance, and don't get all into this. Don't get involved in this. I think you, Brother Karras, one of the times you mentioned about them targeting, and maybe you spoke about this as well, Brother Tayu, about them targeting the inner cities for the armed forces. There's, and actually they always target us, but it seems like they were ramping it up. And so I think we just have to continue the vigilance, because I remember a few years back, one of my nephews asked me about it, and I told him, to be honest with you, and this is before all of this stuff happened, because this is about probably 6 years ago, and he wasn't sure what he wanted to do, and he came and he asked me, and I said, honestly, I think it's other ways to get money for college or do other things. You don't have to go to the military. And right now he's doing really well, and he's glad that he never went to the military. So that's my thoughts on everything.
All right, thank you, Brother Oral. Doug Rice.
Yes, sir, Bob. How we doing?
How you doing, my brother? What's your thought?
Every day, but I I think about your leaning toward this being sooner than later, and as the Creator used powers to move us, I can't imagine not being able to move the heart of some power to have something to say about Negroes. I think at some point their minds are going to turn toward us and our value. I don't think too much time is going to go by allowing us to be go the way of the Gentile, go the way of the American European. Somebody's going to think and stop and say, you know what, we might have to do something. I don't know. I think deliverance, Exodus is near as well. That's my thought.
My thing is, I don't see how it can't, because as we finish looking at some of these articles, I'm like, unless there's a miracle, I don't see how this thing is going to stop, right? So right here.
Well, let me comment. I mean, we're beyond rolling this back, I think, right? Because America and NATO have committed billions of dollars to Ukraine to fight this war. And it's rare that they're going to give billions of dollars to a nation to fight a war. They usually leave it internal and say, hey, that's between you guys, right? But clearly, they have an invested interest. I mean, I understand why. I mean, it's basically solidifying the growth of NATO all over Europe, right, and solidifying that. But Russia doesn't want to be part of NATO, so they have to push Russia out. So that's the issue here. And I mean, at this point, billions of dollars is an investment. Investment in what? You got an interest that you're trying to uphold and maintain, right? So
yeah, that petrodollar.
It's more than that. It's the global empire, the new global system. But yeah,
that's what they're trying to implement, and the whole Depop agenda is part of all of this. And so right here you can see Serbian President Vučić. Europe is de facto at war, no matter what they say. So it's NATO. It's NATO that's at war, right? Which is U.S. and Europe. Down here it says, I have no doubt that Leopard tanks will reach us. We're in the final stage. This is the final stage of the war in Ukraine, right? Somebody coming out victor. Russian Chief of General Staff and Command of Ukraine War, Gerasimov. Russian army is confronted by almost the entire collective West in Ukraine. Such intensity of hostilities has never been seen in the history of modern Russia. So let's see here. Russian T-90 is operated by Wagner PMC forces. So let me read another article, and then I'm gonna come to you, Brother Andre. Let me share this other article here, and we're gonna talk more about all of these things happening, because as I always say, it's not one or two things. It's the accumulation of things, right? Russia to expand the size of military to 1.5 million troops, defense minister says. The Kremlin previously considered the size of Russia's armed forces as sufficient, but that changed after experiencing unexpected resistance and setback in Ukraine. Russia detailed plans Tuesday to expand its military to 1.5 million personnel over the next few years, a move that comes as Ukraine warns that Moscow may be planning an offensive and increased tensions between Moscow and the United States and its allies. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu announced the troop increase, which is expected to be completed by 2026, according to Russian state news agency. Now, my belief is that, okay, they're talking about this ramp up. Well, they already ramped up to what? I think it's what, Kara, 500,000 or more right now, right?
Oh, I believe it's more than that. These are just what they're trying to do with regular troops and regular forces. I think the numbers, yeah, I think they're around like between 700,000 and 1.2 million. And you have to also take into account they're not projecting numbers of foreign forces that have attached in their security cooperation group. So nobody even talks about Belarus, right? Nobody talks about any type of Chinese troops that may have already attached themselves. Nobody's talked about any type of Central Asian countries that may have sent troops, and that was coming through like Kazakhstan and other countries that were willing to provide troops. There's a lot. There's even troops from Iran that supported them. They got Chechen fighters, So there's quite a formidable number that's there. And with that said, of course, if those troops had sprung up, then guess what? There's the NATO troops, which they'll never number. Has anybody heard a number of NATO troops?
Nope.
No, you won't. You won't hear that. They won't report on that. You'll hear nothing of it. This is why you had to understand. If Russia would have just gone through to either block Ukraine or hold Ukraine down, it would have been over within a matter of weeks. But again, I told you they didn't come. NATO just didn't sit around, and I believe again those Russian forces are going up against really Western forces, for all intents and purposes. So
yeah, so right now they're literally fighting NATO right now.
I would say, in my opinion, yes, they're fighting NATO. In my opinion,
Yeah.
So take
my
what it's
opinion
worth
as well.
hmm Now the thing is that they won't declare that they're fighting NATO.
Yeah.
NATO won't say that because you got to understand it's a scary proposition. Oh, we're really fighting against Russia. We're fighting against Russia because why? Because the banks would be shut down, people would be taking money because then they would understand that there's an existential threat. There's a real fear, right? Because there's really we're really going up against really our biggest what's the words
arch nemesis.
Arch nemesis. That's correct, right? And we ain't talking about Rocky either. You know what I'm saying? we ain't talking about Drago.
So it seems to me that the whole idea of the Red Dawn, the movie, right, coming to pass. Right now, remember they always do predictive programming, and it seems to me like somebody been knew what was going to happen.
I'm in total agreement with you, because all my life when I look at a lot of these movies, it seems like instead of life imitating art, it's art imitating life.
Yeah. Yep. Brother Andre,
didn't Albert Pike say we were going to have World War III?
Three world wars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brother Andre, how you doing? What's your thoughts?
Doing fine. Shalom, Brother Yakoba, Teyu, Karis, Doug, and Brother Oral. It amazes me of all the events that's going on today. And people here in the States are just seem to be so complacent. We're at the verge of World War III. And when I grew up, well, I grew up during that time. I grew up in the late 50s, early 60s. And the Cuban Missile Crisis comes to mind. And when this whole thing started, the thing that struck me was this is the exact same thing that the United States was complaining about back in the 60s. They were not going to have Russia have their equipment, their nukes on their back door. And that's why they blockaded Cuba and had sanctions against them all these years. And here we are doing the exact same thing to Russia. And nobody seems to be drawing that parallel. You know, nobody in the media, in the country and whatnot. And our people are just so oblivious. They're just going on as if nothing is going on, and the world is about to flip before our eyes.
But you know, when we look at all of this stuff, it doesn't look like, you know, a lot of times we see these things that come and go, and you know, we got another year, 2, 5, 10, you know, but I really don't see how we have we get past this year. I mean, by the grace of the Most High, maybe, but here's another article, political. North Korea is secretly supplying Russia with ammunition, Kirby says. So according to this article, the Wagner Group is getting their supplies from North Korea. The shipments are being disguised as deliveries to the Middle East and North Africa. North Korea is secretly supplying Russia with a significant amount of ammunition, attempting to disguise the shipments as deliveries to the Middle East and North Africa. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby told reporters on Wednesday, "We're not talking dozens here. It's a significant number of artillery shells," Kirby said. "This is a sign of not only the degree to which North Korea is willing to continue to bolster support Russia, but a sign of Russia's own defense article shortages and needs." Now, here's the thing. This is an alliance of nations. Is that not what the scriptures teach? Is that not what Jeremiah chapter 50 teach, or in the Septuagint 38 teach? Right? So here's the thing. We know about the 4 carpenters that's going to come and kick those people out of our land, right? And so all of these things are lining up as prophesied, and you know, the wicked shall do wickedly, but none of the wicked shall understand. That's why you got a bunch of Israelites that don't believe none of this stuff, right? You got a whole bunch of Israelites who say the Khazars or, you know, are our people. I'm like, you got a bunch of foolishness going on today, right? So here we go. War preparations in Moscow. Russia to declare new patriotic war against NATO. Victory will be ours like 1812 and 1945. Y'all don't think we at war with that? Russia's at war with NATO? Now we have a war between Russia and the West, Lavrov said. Intensive war preparations are taking place in the capital of Russia, Moscow, as according to Russian sources, in the next few days, Putin will make an extremely important announcement. Moscow is expected to officially declare the start of a new patriotic war. This is shown by the statements of Medvedev and Lavrov. At the same time, a little while ago, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced in a statement that the capital is preparing for a conflict with NATO. They're already fighting NATO. They're just upping the ante. In more detail today, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov issued a resounding statement warning, "We are no longer talking about a Russian-Western hybrid war, but a real one." So it's not a proxy war anymore, but a real war. As for what is happening in Ukraine, we are talking about the fact that it is no longer a hybrid war, but a real one. The West has been preparing for a long time against Russia, trying to destroy everything Russian that is left in Ukraine. From the language to the culture, which have been there for centuries, and they have also forbidden citizens to speak their mother tongue. Lavrov clarified his statements about the West in a press conference held after talks with the foreign minister of South Africa. Naledi Pandor, as reported by the Russian news agency. Among other things, Lavrov noted that Ukraine has adopted laws banning Russian language education, Russian language media, and laws effectively banning the use of the Russian language in everyday life. Is this not what the West always does? They try to conquer a nation, a culture, and put in either French or to put in English, things like that, right? They want the unified world governmental system, and you ain't gonna have no individuality. Any cultural context related to the Russian language are prohibited, and all this is supported by the West, just as the West supports the regular marches of neo-Nazis with swastikas with divisive symbols banned by the Nuremberg trials, so the West supports all of this. Lavrov met with his South African counterpart, Naledi Pandor, in the capital of Pretoria in what South African government officials described as a formal visit. War preparations. Days after widespread reports that Russia had installed Pantsir air defense system over key buildings in Moscow, the Kremlin stepped up anti-aircraft drills outside Moscow as it became clear that Putin and the Russian leadership were preparing citizens for new great patriotic war, which according to Medvedev has already begun. Russia announced today that it conducted air defense exercises in Moscow region to protect its infrastructure in case of air attacks against the background of the conflict in Ukraine. Exercises were organized in Moscow region with the personnel of the Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade of the Western Military District to repel air attacks against important military, industrial, and administrative infrastructure. The Russian Defense Ministry said in a statement, according to the ministry, Russian soldiers attending these gymnasiums were trained to use S-300 anti-aircraft missiles. While advancing, the soldiers repelled an attack by an enemy sabotage group on a military convoy. All right, so they're preparing for war, right? Now, let me share this other article. Preparations for conflict with NATO. Anti-aircraft systems in every corner of Moscow. The Kremlin, the residence of Putin, government buildings are being fortified. Moscow's entire anti-aircraft umbrella is on alert. Y'all don't think World War III is at the door? They're putting these these S-300s and S-400s on top of buildings, on top of skyscrapers. They're surrounding Moscow. Why? Because they know they're going hot and heavy soon with NATO. The Russian military and political leadership is preparing for a direct confrontation with NATO, fully confirming War News 247 about the rapid escalation of the Ukrainian front. We reported a month ago that Russia is fortifying the capital, Moscow, with air defense systems. Newer information and videos show that air defense systems have been deployed not only at the Ministry of Defense as leaked yesterday, but also at other governmental buildings, administrative facilities, and ministries. All right, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let's get your opinion on this. Zachariah, welcome.
Shalom, brother. Interesting stuff. Historically speaking, before any war, nations will always prepare, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. Of course, the leaders know things we don't know. A lot of this, information is classified now, but they know that some things are happening behind the scenes. We know. I think you covered on one of your videos how Russia sent a top diplomat to China recently, within the past 3 weeks, I think it's been. And now that's with South Africa. They have a naval exercise plan in February. I think February 17th through 27th or something like that.
I'm about to talk about that because that's real interesting.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. So they know something. So, they have those anti-aircraft, systems like the, S series, systems, 400, 500, 550s. So they're preparing for something. Something big, and recently Putin just demanded that his military industrial complex produce more bombers. So they're preparing for a larger war, and they know exactly what they're doing. And they're very intentional and very disciplined in preparation for what's to come. So it's very interesting stuff. Interesting times.
Very
Well, I want to
interesting.
say, I mean, imagine if Russia loses, right? NATO gets a 2-for-1 deal, right? Because if they beat Russia, they get Ukraine as part of NATO, but they also more than likely would get Russia part of NATO because Russia would be a defeated entity with a new government, right? So, I mean, if the Russians want to keep their culture, their traditions, and all of that, and don't bring in these modern lifestyles that we have, I mean, they're gonna have to hold out and go all out, right? And so, I mean, what's the outcome, right? I mean, there's no choice if you're fighting for your way of life, your culture, your traditions, right? And they keep coming. You're like an animal up against a wall, right? My dad told me a long time ago, don't fight a man who has nothing to lose with his back up against the wall, because he'll go buck wild, and you don't want to deal with something like that.
A question I'd like to ask is, where is America's preparation for its population?
None.
I remember back in the 60s, we had civil defense, and they had people going out in their backyards, digging up holes and making bomb shelters and whatnot. Not that that would do any good. But what preparations is the United States doing even to prepare the population psychologically? And I don't see any.
No, you see it. You're just not paying attention to what it is. It's called TikTok. It's called Instagram.
The
It's called
distraction.
Facebook.
Exactly.
That's all it is. Because you got to understand,
Exactly.
look, if you know that you don't have a fighting force, then what are you going to do? You have to pacify it. We don't have a fighting force here. So you have to pacify that force.
They've given up on the United States. They've given up on the population. And I've seen it too, Andre.
Exactly.
I've got to say and chime in with you, and I hate to cut you off, but for goodness sake, what are Negroes doing? What is the Black community? What is the African American? Whatever you want to call how can any of us not look squarely at what they're doing, the positions that they're putting these pieces in place on the chessboard of this country, and not see them move about throughout the entire world ready to go to war? And I mean, I don't know. I think that
they don't have spiritual discernment. This is the reason why it's gonna be. But they don't have any spiritual discernment because they don't spend any time with the Most High. So they're busy looking at football game like today's Monday in our Monday morning meeting. They're talking about football. I don't even watch football, but that's what people are concerned about. They're concerned about football. They're concerned about partying. They're acting as if nothing has changed. And
I think it's more. I think it's
there.
more than just acting. I think it's more. I think what's happening, and I'm going to cut you
off.
No,
when I say no,
let me say this. Please.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Here's my observation is this. What has changed? I'm 50-something years old. I remember Putin coming in power in the 80s and 90s, overtaking Yeltsin and the whole deal. And what has changed between the 90s, 2000s, and now? How did this guy get so scared all of the sudden? You see, that timing, along with our 400 years, along with these other things that are coinciding with what's happening, is what concerns me most. This is being caused. This is a causality, this frenzy of fear that these individuals have embraced. And they're doing so to the detriment of not just us, but to each other. And that's go ahead.
But what I'm saying here is this. Because we don't spend any time, you see, we're having this conversation. We have spiritual discernment, and the other people, the folks that are listening, that's listening to us live, they're at least listening and trying to learn. The majority of people that look like us, they're busy thinking about the next TikTok video, the next party, and things of that nature, and they don't see anything. They don't think anything has changed. So the people that have spiritual discernment, they're going to see the changes, and they're going to be moving towards the motherland and trying to get a stronger relationship, and they're not going to fear. But those people, when the proverbial, hit the fan, they're going to have a lot of fear, and they're going to have anxiety, and they're not going to know what to do. So that's all I'm saying.
Well, that's interesting. I think it is spiritual discernment, but I don't think it's only that. I think sometimes it's the circles people kind of roll in.
I agree.
Because sometimes it takes exposure, because some people just don't necessarily think along like this line, if you will, or those types of lines, in terms of what could happen, what's really going on, and what's really in the beginning stages of unfolding. So sometimes it takes exposure, because sometimes when people kind of hear like this type of perspective, they'll go, whoa, okay, I see that. They don't necessarily have to have discernment. They don't necessarily have to follow Yahuwah or anything like that. But sometimes it's exposure. And a thought I have about this is that I'm glad you're doing this video, because really neither side can afford to lose. Russia cannot afford to lose, because for them this is survival. I mean, we're talking about NATO. This is an existential threat to them, period. So they have to win in order to maintain their security. And no nation is going to sacrifice their security for anyone or anything, period. It's all about survival. So Russia cannot lose, but I would say equally important, the West cannot lose, because as has been stated on this channel many times, and on this video as well, Russia is fighting NATO. Think about what that means. NATO, all the countries of NATO, they've been pouring their best weapons, many of their best weapons into this conflict, giving billions of dollars, and Russia's freaking winning. So if they are winning, then
I don't think they're pouring their best weapons in it. I think they're holding back their stuff for themselves.
Well, when you consider like the HIMARS system, that's one of their best systems. What's the name of the ones that destroy the tanks, the javelins, and things like that. Not their planes like the F-35s and stuff like that, and like the Bradley tanks, but a lot of their best weapons have gone to Ukraine.
Well, here's the
And Russia's
thing.
winning.
I think it's like my sister Brandy said on she got a Facebook channel, and she mentioned, and I agree with her. She thinks like I do a little bit, that America has been designed to fail in this war for some reason. Now, I don't know if the upper echelon know this or not or what, but they didn't jab all of their military people, right? And so they're going to have issues. And the crux when it gets hot and heavy in the field, because you know what happens with the athletes, right? When they start exerting themselves, can you imagine in the field when they start exerting themselves, what's going to happen?
Heart attack.
And so then we have them giving away all of these weapons. Now, I do agree. I don't think their best weapons have been sent. There's some unknown technology they got that they think is going to give them the edge, because they never would have probably done it unless they got some super secret thing they think they can win with. But when we look at the scriptures, they're going to lose, right? So there's a lot of things that's been happening that even when you look at Saudi Arabia has joined BRICS, right? I mean, everybody's changing sides. And even I think, how we see in the scripture where the 10 gonna hate the whore, they're gonna betray her and burn her with fire, right? There's a lot of things going on, and we're seeing it right now. Steve, welcome. What's your thought?
Hey, bro, appreciate the time, and shalom to the family. I think again, we have to have the appropriate context. The scriptures makes it very clear that one, we live in a rebellious society. They're not going to be able to recognize the truth, even though it's right in front of their face, the same way Jeremiah warned them, the same way Ezekiel did, and that's just what it is. And Mr. Kobe, you made a very good point a very long time ago that ultimately the war is against the people, right? The people at the top of the food chain. They already know what's going on. We can refer to the videos of the pictures of George Bush and Putin wearing the same secret society clothes, going to this secret gathering.
Yeah, him and G were wearing the same outfit. And George Bush. You there, Steve? Yeah.
Yeah, and Putin, they were all wearing the same thing. So, amongst the kings of the earth, this is simply a plan, right? And ultimately, the end of it is going to be what the death of as many people as possible, right? to fulfill that bloodlust of those fallen angels that they serve. But ultimately, you know, the awareness has to maintain amongst us to continue to prepare and to warn as many people as it can, even though they won't listen, right? And this is a nation that's drunk, that's literally complete.
Yeah, you went silent, brother Steve.
I'm sorry about that. No, I was saying, this is a nation that, has a hard time perceiving any truth at all, let alone, this information right here. And it will not, this nation will not realize, that's Hebrew and non-Hebrew, will realize what's happening until it's too late. And ultimately, I think those are the conditions where we end up leaving and fleeing. So
What if the plan from somewhere is that neither side comes out as a winner, that both sides are mortally wounded? Would that be maybe a setup for the so-called New World Order?
I mean, I think, here's the thing. The goal is to create this new global technocracy, and where we all come back and they're gonna say, we cannot have this anymore, no more. We must unite for peace for the world, peace and security, right? And so they're gonna play that whole thing, knowing that they were the ones behind this whole thing, just so they could get what they wanted, which is this world governmental system with the digital IDs and the social credit tracking and all these things, right? So it's order out of chaos, right? It's this whole dialectic of what we see in Star Wars about the good side of the force and the bad side of the force, synthesis and what is it, thesis and antithesis, right? This is what they're doing, right? And out of the thesis and antithesis, they're gonna bring forth, the unity of the world through this Hegelian dialectical process. This is what's happening. Most people don't understand this because, like I said, most people play checkers. They don't play chess,
You
right?
can't get a new world order without chaos first, right? That's why it's called
Yeah.
order out of chaos.
Yeah.
yeah. And I just want to mention one thing before I apologize, but don't think it's a coincidence that they're having emergency meetings at the World Economic Forum at the same
Yes.
happen. It's not, none of this is by accident. Now, for us, again, to us, it's chaos. To them, it's not. So,
And that's a good point. I mean, the WEF meeting, why? Because the whole world about to collapse. Same thing with the debt, right? The U.S. ain't paying this debt. I mean, how come they ain't get Congress to extend the debt yet? And they talking about it. If it's not extended by June, everything gonna fall apart.
Well, because nobody buying the debt, right? People had to buy the debt. It was a guarantee. Russia had the debt. China bought the debt, and that meant they had a piece of the American government, and the American government was in debt to all these nations who bought its debt. And so, I mean, it was just another form of currency, but now Russia and China are creating currency backed by gold. Africa is moving to a currency backed by gold. So that fiat money is about to collapse because no one's buying it anymore.
It's almost like somebody knows that America truly is finished. And the last hurrah is a Hail Mary pass to see if we can go and win this war. And if we don't, oh, to heck with it, because we're finished anyway.
I agree with you there. I agree with you because, the natives were told that they wouldn't be here for more than 300 years. And it seems as if, you got to look at what America looks like to the rest of the world. And when I say Americans, I mean, those Americans like Mitch McConnell kind of way, and they look like grievous, whining, privilege. And all they do is hiss. All they do is make a hissing noise. And the rest of the world is sick of them. So a guy in Russia was interviewed on the streets asking if Russia should nuke the United States, just common dude on the streets of Russia. He said, yeah, the United States got to go. So I think you may be right. Yep.
Sister
But
Brandy,
isn't that
hold on one second. Sister Brandy, can you put your YouTube link in there? Because everyone asking about it. Who was talking? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry to cut you off. But isn't that funny how the sentiment of nukes and nuclear weapons have changed? And the funny thing is when they were talking about, well, the Russians don't want to have nuclear weapons being used. So Putin's a tyrant. Putin's a criminal. but then they're interviewing people on the street. And it's crazy because it's like 80% or more of Russians, a good majority, let me just put this there, a good majority of Russians are like, look, yeah, we're waiting on it. We're waiting on the nuclear weapons to go.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing. We don't want to have nuclear weapons. We don't want to do that. But they do. They're like, look, it's over with. Look, how come the US can do it, but we can't do it? No, we got something. And that's where it's just unbelievable how the heart has changed, where it's like, well, you know what? We're going to use those nuclear weapons, and I believe they're going to use it first. This is what I wanted to say real quick. You don't have a defensive posture unless you're going to do something, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Putin's on watching Netflix. He's like, I'm going to use that Cobra Kai model. Strike first.
Well, let me
strike
ask
last.
you. You know, I mean, even in video games, when you're losing, what do? You use your Samson option, right?
Mhm.
If you have a Samson option and you lose and you go out and you take it all with you, right? I mean, they talk about this like people are gonna apply some kind of reason, but I'm like, the good thing would be to have a conversation across the table and not fight each other, but they threw that option out the window. So what's left?
Well, the United States seems to have instigated this whole conflict. Going back to what was it, 2012, 14, when the first thing with Russia popped off, the presidency in Ukraine changed, and now we have this guy who played a president on TV. I mean, you really can't make this up, but they made it up. They're doing it.
So let me share this article with you all. South Africa plays China and Russia card against U.S. with joint naval exercise. Personally, I don't think South Africa playing, the ends, the two ends against the middle. I personally think that South Africa has chosen the side. The exercises have been condemned by Washington, but are seen as giving a PR boost to Moscow amid its ongoing war against Ukraine. Some defense analysts believe the drills in a strategically important sea route off the Cape may become a regular event. South Africa is likely to use China and Russia as bargaining chips in its dealings with the U.S. after announcing a joint drill with two countries in Cape Route waters, defense analysts have said. The exercise is also seen as giving further propaganda boost to Moscow after it recently announced that its forces had seized the small town of Soledar after months of reverses and heavy losses. The joint exercises, dubbed MOSI, which means smoke in local Swanee language, will be held between February 17 and 27, the South African military announced on Thursday. It said the Chinese and Russian navies would join its forces for the drills off port city of Durban and Richards Bay, one of the strategically important shipping routes connecting Europe and Asia, South Africa's military announced on Thursday. Now, keep that in mind. It will be the second such exercise after a previous drill in November 2019. The United States, which has fostered a decades-long strategic partnership with South Africa, immediately expressed disapproval. David Feldman, a spokesman for the United States Embassy in Pretoria, said the U.S. noted with concern the plan to hold the exercise, even as Moscow continues its brutal and unlawful invasion of Ukraine, according to New York Times. South Africa is going to play the Russia and China card and try to achieve more bargaining chips when dealing with the U.S., which failed to seek the African country's support over the Russia-Ukraine war, said Ni Lexion, a political science professor at Shanghai University. South Africa has refused to join the condemnation of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has triggered sweeping Western sanctions and repeated accusations of war crimes committed by Russian forces. So my whole thing is that it appears to me that, and we don't know, right? We're just guessing. It appears to me like, when Russia was doing its exercises before it invaded Ukraine, that this exercise is an alliance of the BRICS nations, right? Which is why you have North Korea as well, who's financing or helping give military weapons to Wagner Group in Russia. They're preparing to go straight up against NATO, and South Africa is going to be involved in it. This is why Russia is putting these S-400s and 300s all around Moscow right now, right? Because they're about to go hard and heavy. This is why Germany is talking about sending not troops, but tanks to Ukraine, because there's already NATO troops in Poland. Sending tanks to Ukraine and sending F-16s, right, to Ukraine, which are really being sent to Poland and then Ukraine, because NATO is about to confront Russia all out. They're all about to go hot and heavy. Now, think of this, just guessing. If all of this, because we see that this particular exercise is going to happen around February 17th, right? Now, according, even though we're on a Gregorian calendar, according to some, Passover is what, in April, March or April, whatever. I mean, I don't really know, because I'm not a calendar guy, right? You got to get the calendar experts and, biblical calendar experts. I'm not that guy. But something is going on. It looks like it's preparing for all-out conflict. Panel, what's your thoughts?
I agree. How can you not look this square in the face and see that they're converging, moving everything they need in place? And it's almost like they've left the United States behind in their concern for what she thinks, and it's a slow turn. First, we got Russia invading Ukraine. Now, China eyeing Taiwan. And NATO just looks to be alone. And with these Satan 3 missiles, I mean, who names missiles Satan? But okay, you got 1, 2, and 3. I mean, this guy's itching to do something. And I think a 1-2 punch, one to NATO and one to the United States, would be just what he needs to start off his new year. There you go.
Hey, what they say, if it looks like a duck, quack like a duck, then it's a duck. So, I mean, this is what's going on here. So, I mean, it's biblical prophecies being fulfilled right in front of our eyes. So you see how America is a stranglehold on the rest of the world is slowly being eased. So these people are not afraid of America anymore. And this is why they're going against her. I mean, first Saudi Arabia, now this report that Brother Yacoba just read about South Africa. So it's just going to continue more and more people are going to be moving to BRICS and moving away from NATO. It's the bottom line.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to that because you hit that on the head, Brother Oral. Do you not understand that is the imagery of what is being shown to the African Union, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we have BRICS finances, right? We have infrastructure with China.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to have military might with Russia and China at the same time. That's imagery, because if they see what happens, they join, they become, they look. And don't be surprised, because you have to understand there's an involvement that South Africa has with the AU. The only ones that's really going to be polarized in this, more than likely Ghana, Nigeria, and mainly Kenya. But I don't see that happening with Egypt. I think Egypt definitely loves to mimic a lot of things that South Africa does. So you're going to now have a continent that's looking at this, and they're going to say, wow, this is something how do we join? How do we get this alliance going? Whenever you're seeing these are proof of concepts. These are conditional operations that they're showing. Hey, look, this is our drills. These are our maneuvers. Because here's the thing with these exercises, all right? Other countries will watch the exercises, and then at the high level, it's not just the troops that's on the ground. It's also the high level security cooperations and things of that nature, and then other countries try to join into it, all at the same time. Do you all see what's happening here?
Yeah, and on top of that, And Brother Karis, on top of that, you now have a currency that's backed by something that's actually valuable,
Bingo.
not just fiat.
Bingo. Because you have now a gold standard that these countries are using. And guess what? Well, there's no manipulations in any of the prices with any
Yeah,
of their acquisition cross servicing agreements. They don't have to, do some sort of funky math that's going to screw one country and ingratiate another. That's not
Exactly.
you see what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So now
Yes.
this all goes through, and it's like, oh, okay, that's fair, that's cooperative. So, all right, well, I mean, I'm not getting screwed because when I always negotiate, we get screwed, right? And so this is where you're now seeing the threshold, and I believe that that looks more or less that's now a corridor. Because, Brother Yacob, I think you may have mentioned this earlier. What's Iran doing in Panama? And not just in Panama, and what? In Venezuela and other places in South America. How are they getting there? The ship. What are they doing? Freedom of navigation movements. They're doing literally corridors.
Air quote
Do you
exercise.
do you all see that? They're doing corridors. Who do you think those corridors are for? More than likely us returning back to our
so,
land.
so let me ask you something right quick, Brother Kara. So remember, China was buying a bunch of gold. Russia was buying up a bunch of gold before all of this. Now we see Ghana buying oil from the UAE and gold. Zimbabwe backing their currency with gold. So basically, look like these, BRICS and an anti fiat currency alliance has formed for real currency, and it's going to destroy the economy of the West. And I'm like, to me, I'm like, maybe this was what the war is about, but I don't know. It seems to me it just organized destruction of the status quo. What's your thought?
Well, remember, the whole thing that the West has is that its dominance is based off of what? Being able to enforce its standard of trade through what? Through war. Well, now you don't have that luxury anymore. So guess what? Now there's actually a standard that the West has to now be subservient to, for lack of better words, in order for goods to be fairly distributed. Now, in the lack of the Eurocentric model of fairness and things of that nature, well, fairness to them is always a get over on the African countries. So now what they're having to do is they're now having to lessen themselves or put themselves on an equal playing field in order to do what? In order to have fair and balanced trade. So now that fair and balanced trade is destroying them. Why do you think France is talking about they have to take the pensions or they have to raise numbers of age? Why? Because they're losing out money in Africa.
Yep, exactly. And look,
Well, I mean, you
did you see
understand
the
what I'm
pro?
saying?
Did you see the protests in France? Why are they doing that? Because the retirement money and stuff. Because they can't get it from Africa no more.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. They lost a revenue stream. So guess what? Hey, folks, you can't retire. We promised you can retire at age 60. Now it's age 64. Well,
Yeah.
wait a second. We're dying here left and right. Some of us haven't even made the retirement. We don't put something in our bodies that's experimental. Yes, this is all. It's an economic warfare with literal warfare, and we don't even understand the full scope. Because why? This is something that's so new and unconventional that we're still just trying to make sense of this. Now we have the compass. You know what the compass is? It's called the Most High's word. It's called
Yep.
prophecy. Because if you didn't, your head would be spinning. Well, what's going on here? Why is this going on here? Because why? Because all they're doing is a pinching maneuver. It's a
And
pinching maneuver.
and Brother Karis, look how many pieces are moving at the same time, man. And Brother Jacoby, you mentioned that this is so correct when you say that this is not checkers. This is definitely strategic chess. This is like high level chess where you got to be thinking like not even 10 steps ahead. You got to be like 50 steps ahead to keep up.
Exactly. So look, I'm gonna show this video talking about the South Africa drills, and then I'm gonna come back to Dave and Don P.
Considering that the US influence in Africa is waning, the Biden administration launched an aggressive campaign to woo African countries. As part of these efforts, recently the US announced that it will train some African countries in cyber, land, and maritime defense. Furthermore, keeping its revived engagements with Africa agenda in mind, the US has flooded Africa with many such promises. However, it looks like South Africa is not impressed and is all set to foil Biden's plan. Hello and welcome to TFI Global Africa, TFI Global's channel especially dedicated to the cradle of humanity. I am your host Surabhi. Let's begin with the video report. As per a report, South Africa's military has announced it will hold joint military drills with Russia and China off its coast. The drills will run for 10 days from 17th February to 27th February in the port city of Durban and Richards Bay, South Africa. The South African National Defence Force has said it aims to share operational skills and knowledge. The SANDF further said that this year's exercise will see over 350 SANDF personnel from various arms of services and divisions participating. This is the second time that such a military drill is scheduled to take place. The first was held in November 2019 in Cape Town. The timing of South Africa's military drills with Russia and China is intriguing, as it comes at a time when AFRICOM is set to hold a series of engagements and training with its African partners. Interestingly, this is not the first time that South Africa has snubbed the US and given the cold shoulder to Biden despite his best attempts to woo the country. South Africa was among the African countries that abstained from taking sides in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. US Treasury Secretary Janet L. Yellen is currently visiting the three African countries of Senegal, Zambia, and South Africa. Similarly, all these countries have not been supportive of the US's Ukraine cause. The visit by the US Treasury Secretary, particularly to these three countries, was meant to be a major step to achieve a significant geopolitical objective by the US. However, it seems like South Africa is still not impressed by the US attempts and has once again shown Biden which side South Africa intends to be on. At a time when the US has launched its aggressive campaign to woo more and more African countries, especially after the US-Africa summit, and is flooding them with various promises to gain their trust and support, South Africa's decision to hold military drills with two of the US's major geopolitical rivals in the continent is bound to annoy Biden the most.
All right, Brother Dave, what's your thoughts on this? Because let's see, where Brother Dave? He gone. All right, wait, yeah, he gone. Come back if you had dropped, Brother Dave. We're gonna go on to Brother Don P. What's your thoughts, Brother Don?
Yeah, just a matter of the other shoe dropping. Russians are very serious people about what they do, and when they dedicate themselves to something, that's a wrap. That's all they're thinking about, and their temperament and demeanor just makes them very serious people. And I really don't think the West knows what they got themselves into. So, but it's it's all supposed to happen, and it's all supposed to go down. So the king's all the nations gonna turn against the harlot.
So
it's gonna be a wrap.
So Brother Don P, I say it in some of my other broadcasts, and I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna keep saying it. So, Brother Don, no 400-year prophecy?
Oh no, that doesn't exist. That didn't happen. 400. No, there was a movie called 300, but no. Yeah, no such animal.
You look at these prophecies coming to pass, and it makes you wonder: are these people deep in sin that they just can't see it, or are they like what I think? I think they're agents. A lot of them, I think they're agents. Because how do you not see this? It's like staring you in the face. I think a secular atheist can see what's happening. But I do believe some of them are atheists. But go ahead, brother.
But Brother Jacob, what I was going to say, well, remember the Bible says that the Most High is going to give them a strong delusion. So I think that's what's going on with a lot of these people.
Good point. All right, I'm gonna share this other article, and we're gonna get comments on that. Lavrov claims West stopped Ukraine peace negotiations and is now almost in a real war with Moscow as South Africa greets Russian friends and openly sides with the Kremlin. Lavrov claimed Russia willing to negotiate peace with Kiev, but West intervened. Lavrov blasted West for sending the weapons to Ukraine as fighting continues. President Zelensky has pleaded for more tanks to stop the evil invasion. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of it, but my question to the panel is this. Why would Zelensky, never want to, sit down and negotiate with Russia? Because I mean, he's obviously lost a lot of people. He lost a lot of money. He lost a lot of land. Why would he just go ahead and allow his country to be sacked like that? What's y'all thoughts on it? I got my thoughts, but what's y'all thoughts?
I think he wants
to
to be
the West.
Well, that too. Yeah, definitely that. But I think as well, his government wants to be part of NATO, and this is that opportunity, and he's going to do whatever he can to be part of NATO. But, at the same time, he is a puppet. So I think it's just advanced chess we're dealing with.
So let me ask you, Minister, tell you, do I sound muffled?
Not to me.
You sound fine to me.
Okay. All right. So we have all of these prophecies coming to pass, and we're gonna get final comments after this. No problem, brother. So we understand that all of these things are supposed to come to pass. We see all the prophecies coming to pass, and I always like to ask this, and the reason why I ask this, I'm curious to see if people see what I see. And the same thing with the panel. Family, and it's the panel first, and and the chat too. Y'all think we out of here this year? I'm just asking. I mean, we ain't setting no dates. I just want to know what you think.
I'd answer.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm always different. I'm gonna say no, but I do think there's major change coming that's gonna lead to the Exodus. But I can't say the Exodus is gonna kick off this year, next year. But I think World War III is imminent. I think World War III can be within a few months.
I'm going to have to second that, Brother Teyu. I'm going to have to second that. I don't think it's going to be this year, but I do agree that it's going to be some major changes that's going to be coming down the pipeline. But I can't say for sure when we're going to be out of here, but I don't think it's going to be this year.
I agree. I think that I would call it not a gradual process, but like an expedited gradual process where, things would just pop off. This will happen, that will happen. It'll be World War III, and then, other things will unfold. There could be a civil war, things like that in different places. And because we see a lot of governments falling apart. So I think that things will get increasingly worse. And then ultimately will leave. But I think that this year, though, is a defining moment, or a defining year. I think the world is at a crossroad, and I think we know the path it's going to take. So I think it'll be a definitive year, but maybe not necessarily this year. But like I said, things are not going to get better; they'll just get worse.
And I think that things for our people, things will have to get a lot worse for them to turn on the United States. I think that we've been so indoctrinated. And one of the questions I wanted to pose tonight was, when was it that Negroes stopped being a people? And when you hear all these other people talking, oh, our identity is in Christ, or we're Americans and we're patriotic, this, that, and the other, when did we stop being a people and were concerned about the interests of our people? This just happened in the past 10, 15 years.
That was Eurocentric Christianity did that.
Yeah, and equality and
so we'll come back to that question, but let's get the rest of the answer for my question, Brother Doug.
Yeah, we're leaving tomorrow. I hope y'all are packed. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't know. I didn't know you got the memo. We're out. Y'all get ready? What's happening? What you talking about? I'm packing while y'all talking. Just kidding. I'm gonna say I gotta side with the rest of the crew here, only because things that have to happen real quickly for us to leave. But I will say the door sashes will be painted with blood, and by the end of this year, more likely by well before this year, we're going to see our way out. We're going to know how we're going to leave. I believe that. I believe there's going to be something that breaks, that puts a spotlight on us, and the machine will begin to turn. And I really think that. And again, the Creator uses mechanisms, people, situations to accomplish his will. I can't imagine someone's heart turning toward us at some point and saying, about those enslaved groups they've had for 400 years. Wasn't there some prophecy about those guys? Can we get them out of there?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. But not this year, maybe next.
Brother Karras.
All right. I'm gonna put some military analysis in there because I think a lot of folks don't truly understand. How quickly did folks leave out of Ukraine?
Overnight, right?
Rapidly, very rapidly.
Okay. How quickly did that sentiment turn around? In about 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And let me explain this to you all because I was intimately familiar with what was going on in Syria and seeing the Facebook posts and seeing the different things that was going on that was causing everything to rapidly deteriorate in that country. And let me tell you this, things break down very quickly at the first explosion. And if you didn't know, they're already trying to blow up in this country, power plants and substations.
Yep. You heard what happened in Pakistan, right?
Yep. Over 200 million people out of electricity, all countrywide.
Yep.
So well, I can tell you this real fast. Earlier this year, last year, a part of Leesburg, we were out of power for like a good almost 12 hours, and mysteriously a car crashed into a power plant. So yeah.
Yeah. But let me tell you, that was 12 hours. Imagine your power being out for 3 days.
Yeah.
Imagine your power being out for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I hear you.
Imagine your power being out for a month. Oh, and there's no water.
Yeah.
Oh, and you understand you're not going to stay where you're at.
Yep.
You will literally have to physically move in order to survive because you will die. And Brother Oil, you're right an hour from me. You know how hot Florida can get. Even in the
yeah.
Brother Karras, do you mean they might actually flee?
Hey, I hope. Let me tell you this. I hope that we're wrong. Believe you me, I would love to be wrong in this situation.
Yeah, but in this scenario, we have two ways out: Mexico or Canada or the ocean. Which one? Right.
Well, and so here's the thing. Do you not understand how quickly a ship can come over and transit the transatlantic, or they can transit the Atlantic Ocean, right? The ships can do that nowadays within about 7 to 10 days, within about 2 weeks, right? They can make it to every port in the United States. Planes really, they can be here in less than 6 hours from the continent.
Still, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, though.
Only America has all those cruise ships, right? I think that's the only thing we have on our way out. Now, hey, as long as somebody's serving me my cocktails, I could do that.
But you have cruise ships, and you also have what? You also have planes. Yeah. Do you not know that these planes can get on over here? You would have military aircraft. You would also have civilian aircraft. And you know the capacity. You could literally just think about this. We can't even think about you. I saw a staggering number back in like 2018, 2019. And the only reason that this caught my eye was because I had to travel from the Middle East back home around Christmas time. That's back in that time when I was still doing Christmas. And it was saying, well, over the course of this week, just in America alone, just in the U.S. alone, they were moving roughly 1 billion people. So you're telling me that they couldn't move, let's say, at their estimate, and I'll overestimate it just a little bit, between 60 and 70 million? You're telling me that they can't do 60 or 70 million people within the course of a week? And that's not to include either ships, too. Come on, you know that they can.
But we're acting
That's a
like
good
everybody's
point.
going to want to leave. We're acting like so many Negroes are going to be running for the waters of the border. I'm trying to tell you, them folks going to be trying to dig in, trying to save some of their forefathers that died. There's so few of us that want to leave. That's the problem. I'm trying to figure out when we stop looking for the exits out this place. And
Yeah.
That's all part. That's all part of the strong delusion, though. So that's the thing that we have to remember.
The numbers are going to be so small because the offer's going to be put to leave, and guess what? Everybody's going to be like, "Nope, I want to stay."
Look, when basic utilities go down, guess what? Everybody's gone.
That's true.
That's true.
When basic utilities, it's
true.
Well, brother
tend to-
Karras, you made a good point about the airplanes, because when I during this recent holiday season, they were talking about millions of people traveling just over a holiday weekend kind of thing, right? A holiday week during Christmas week, and it's millions of people. So that's just in a week. I mean, I guess you could probably get about 20 million people out maybe within a month.
So let me get Brother Dave. He been waiting patiently. He back on. So Brother Dave, you can comment on anything you want to, but the question was, how long you think we got before we out of here? Because here's the thing: nobody's setting dates. It's just a hypothetical. It's what you feel in your spirit. Nobody's saying we out of here. Just for the haters out there, just letting you know, ain't nobody setting no dates. It's what you feel in your spirit. What's your thoughts, Brother Dave? And you can comment on anything else you want to as well.
With everything's going on, I think we got less than 6 months. And also, number two, this stuff was supposed to go on when Hillary Clinton was running for the presidency. She was going to start this fight off with Putin. Everybody was worried about Trump. Oh, Trump's going to, and I was at my workplace, and we supposed to have these high level meetings with low level thinking of these professional people in there. I'm worried about Trump. He's going to start a world war. I said, Trump's not going to be the one to do that. I tell you who's going, as soon as they get another Democrat in there, we're going to go to war. And sure enough, just when Biden got in there, I said, prepare for war, because it's coming. So I was warning them back when Hillary was running. I said, she's going to press us into a war with Russia. And this stuff was supposed to go on back then. So actually, Trump was like a reprieve. We had a little bit more time to get some things together. And I knew that as soon as he got out of office, I knew this was coming. So what I think personally, the way things are ramping up, less than 6 months.
So here's my thoughts, since I didn't give mine. So I'm gonna give it's a range, right? You know how you got the little graph and stuff, right? And I lean more towards Dave's timeline, right? Max 2 years, no more than that, 2025 max, right? But I lean more towards Dave. And why do I say that? Because according to the scriptures, because everybody's trying to look at it from the natural viewpoint, right? But according to Isaiah 66:8, who has heard such a thing? Who has ever seen things like this? Can a country be born in a day, or a nation be brought forth in a moment? Yet sooner is Zion in labor than she gives birth to her children. Now, my thing is this: what I'm seeing right now is birth pains, and I see the contractions, like that baby, like right there, the woman screaming, she like, she in pain. That's how much contraction that I'm seeing, right? I mean, that baby look like it's about to pop. So, in a moment, in an instant, Israel is born, Israel is out of here, right? That's what I'm seeing, but like I said, these are all hypotheticals. It's how we feel. Is what you may.
You better say you're not date setting.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not setting no dates. This is just speculating. See, a lot of people don't want to allow us to have fun and say what we feel, right? Can we do that, y'all? Can we not speculate sometime and say, yeah, this is what I see. No, I disagree with you. And all these, this is what this is. That we're just speculating. Sometimes people don't want you to speculate. Oh, well, Jacoba said a date. No, I ain't setting no dates. Right? It's speculation. It's just fun. This is how we see scripture. This is what we feel. So let's get back to the question that Brother Andre had. So Brother Andre said, well, when did we stop being the people? When did we stop caring about who we are and all this stuff, right? Brother Andre, you want to ask that question again?
Brother, before you jump into that, I just want to say I'm thinking 2025 only because we know what's supposed to happen in 2025, according to Mr. Gates.
That's their timeline, yeah. But but God has his timeline.
Right. He's going to frustrate their hand.
Yeah. But I mean, 2025 is a good target date. Brother Andre, so what's your thoughts?
Well, it's funny to me how I've been listening to these different conversations recently. And before, we've always been a people. I mean, I grew up during the civil rights time. I remember Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, that whole sentiment. And that went on for years. And then all of a sudden, we're not a people anymore. We're not supposed to worry about our own interests. If we do, we're deemed as being racist. That is crazy to me. And to see other...
I just gonna say we got that Negro channel that said we all pushing Black Power now. But go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
That is crazy to me, and it's not just there. It's across that Christian spectrum.
Yeah.
Whenever they're doing all of the police shootings, where were the churches? Where was anybody talking about our interests? It's non-existent, and we've been so brainwashed these past, I'll give it 20 years. It boggles my mind. And to hear these people these days, when all we're saying is we are a particular people. We are a bloodline. We are a family, not a race. They always bring it back to race. And then, you're race baiting. Oh, you're being racist. That's a foreign concept to me. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around it. Maybe you can give me some insight.
Well, I always say, like Pastor Darby say, well, they say you're racist. Well, maybe I am, right? I mean, maybe I am, because here's the thing. I'm for my people. If there's a problem with me being for my people, if there's a problem being for my family first, then something wrong with me, then that's that. Well, that's something wrong with me then. I mean,
hey, it was good enough for them. It should be good enough for us. These are the rules y'all set up. This is the game we playing by.
They label us as colored. Later on, we're black. They kept the labels on us to keep us restricted. When we go to point that out, now we're being racist, and our own people are some of the ones that come at us the hardest.
Yeah, now, that's because they want us to be transparent. Well,
hey, brother Jacobo, what did Redman say? I'll be that. So that's it. That's it.
Look, it happened when integration was finalized. It happened when Dr. King supposedly got what he wanted, right? Which, I mean, he led us into a burning building, like he said. But after integration, everything went downhill. We allowed our leaders betrayed us. Our leaders allowed us to absorb their version of Christianity and let them teach us who the Messiah is. And so under their teaching, there's this, what I like to call a democratic religious system where God is balanced. God gives everyone the same reward. He doesn't have a favorite people anymore, even though all of the Old Testament is about that particular group of people he called the apple of his eye. They don't exist. They lost their inheritance. They are disqualified, right? So now they done taught us to just abandon that idea and go along with this universalism of, hey, we all equal because God paid for our sins. But the Father set his plan in motion from the beginning, right? And he used a group of people, our ancestors, to implement his plan. They don't like that, right? And they are really upset that we woke up.
Did y'all see what happened with the video where the sisters on TikTok said, we're gonna have a special day where we do things for black women, and the white
Yes.
women got upset
Yep.
because the
Yeah,
black women say they're
yeah.
gonna do something
Yeah.
together, right? Why? Because we can't have nothing for ourselves. We can't be black. We got to be unified with everybody else, and there's nothing special about you. You just like us. That's why you can't even be black. You transparent now, right?
Let's see.
And they,
Can I answer
yeah, go ahead.
Andre's question? If that was okay, he had asked when we forgot or when we stopped being unified. Is that all right? Can I answer that question, or at least try to? Andre, I was Mr. Bell, very interesting question. I gave it some thought, and I think this slow roll to the disunity of Negroes in this country started just after Kennedy's assassination. I think what they found is if you cut the patriarchal head off the snake, you'll find that the family will disunify. The family will fall apart. And then they saw as a roll of brothers who one by one, through Medgar Evers, through Malcolm, through MLK, through Robert Kennedy, who got killed, and they saw the after effects of how that disjointed their families. And I think they then, the Nixon administration, determined that they would infuse the black communities with drugs while simultaneously making the possession of those same drugs illegal with long prison terms, thereby taking away that father within the community and tearing apart the unity that we enjoyed before the 60s and 50s. That's and of course, coupled with that lie of integration and trying to make us equal with individuals who, if we look at their track record, who are they to be equal to, is a great question asked by X. But that's where I think we turned left, if you like. Anyway, that's it.
I do agree with you, and from what I've seen, it did start back in that era, and it started. One of the things, I put it on the birth control pill, and the idea of free sex during the hippie days. We fell victim to that. Before that, unwed teenage daughters it wasn't unheard of, but it was a thing that was hush hush. And during my time, you needed to go ahead and get married or whatever. But during the time of free sex, and everybody could have it, then everybody wanted to be a pimp. Everybody wanted to be this fly woman, this, that, and the other, playing to our fleshly desires, and we fell for it. And then our family started to fall apart. Everybody wanted to have 6, 7 women on the side. Women wanted to play men, could go out and have sex here and there, and no consequences to pay for it. Later on, like you said, the drug culture came along, and then the 80s hit. And
the drug culture was put upon us, Mr. Bell. The drug culture was an intentional act by an administration we now know intentionally put so many drugs into our communities as a determined way to destroy us. And I look at all things that we suffer as Negroes in this country, and I can trace it back to the causality of caucasity. And I refuse to take responsibility in total for our present condition in this country. And believe me when I tell you, talk about ready to leave. I fear if we don't leave soon, the pressure that's built up and are being programmed by these creatures may result in some serious activity.
Creatures is right, and that's another thing. I remember growing up. I grew up in the time of Tarzan and Jungle Jim and this, that, and the other. And I remember it in old movies and whatnot. They would come around some African tribes or African-looking tribes, and they'd have this big cauldron. Oh, they're the cannibals.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
now we're finding out that we've been living amongst the cannibals all along.
Yep.
We didn't eat anyone. They ate our forefathers.
Here.
It was against our laws to do that.
Right. Well, we didn't even eat.
They do what they want.
Right. Well, it's not even within our law to even eat rare beef.
Yeah.
We don't eat blood.
Exactly.
Um,
But they were
you know,
able to push the swine upon us.
Yeah.
Right. I wanted to add to this conversation and answer your question, Andre, or respond to your question, um, and then just expound a little bit. But as far as us being a people is concerned, that's it. That's why the enemy did what he did, to make us forget who we are and to think that we want to be like everyone else and everyone is the same, and white Jesus was singing lullabies to us, lulling us to sleep. That's what the enemy wanted. That was his ultimate move, because we cannot walk within the power of the Most High until we had to awaken. So the great Hebrew awakening has happened, is happening. But then we have to kind of come together and say, you know what, Israel first. Not that we would, exclude everyone, because we're supposed to be the light of the world. But I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I won't totally exclude everyone, but I do prefer Israel first. I do prefer my people.
Let's get real. Who's gonna help us but us?
Right.
I mean, beside the
No
Most High,
one.
who's gonna help us but
No
us?
one.
No one.
So they
No
want us
one.
focus on everybody else but us, so we don't get no help, right?
But
Exactly.
I liken it
And
to
every
a
nation
family.
does that. I've seen it my whole life. Every single other nation does that. When they come over from another country, they have chain migration. They will
Yes.
bring their cousin over. My former roommate in college was from India, and I saw it firsthand. One person would come over, and a lot of times they'll start a business, and then they'll use business visas to bring their other family members over. They'll have student visas to pay for school for them. Every other nation does that. They put themselves first.
It's
And
almost as if the
But
immigration
but the
system
thing,
is
but I
designed.
think it's important. The key for us is we have to get to a place where we do that. Again, we're not going to
but
be
here's the thing
hateful,
though.
but
The only way that's going to be done is through the Most High, because we have always had this
not
thing where we have a crabs in the barrel mentality. If you go back
okay,
and you look, no,
well, not
let
always.
me
Hold on,
Maybe
one at a
no, but
time, guys.
let me just make this point here.
Let me go, Keith.
But Keith, let me just say this. If you look back, we've always gone after what the other nations have, and it's always gotten us into trouble. This is why we're always in and out of captivity. We wanted a king. The Most High said, "Okay, here's your king." Okay, now let me even backtrack a little bit. When we were in the land of Egypt, we were moaning and groaning. The Most High heard our cries. He let us out. He let us out with a mighty hand. And he gave us in Deuteronomy 28 all these rules, or all these things that if we abide by, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get the good. If you don't, then you're going to get all these curses. And so we just always had this history of being a stiff-necked people. And so the only way we can get out of this is when he actually put his hand and actually change our minds and our hearts, and we get in tune with him, because it's just in our nature, unfortunately.
But that can't be an excuse. I don't think we can. Or
It's
should.
not an excuse, it's a fact.
No, it is a fact. But guess what? Maybe on a general level that's true, but that doesn't mean that people cannot start to do otherwise. And that
I don't disagree with you at all. I don't disagree with you at all when you say that,
No,
brother.
no, I know you don't. I know. I can tell. But I'm just saying that for some things you just have to start doing it. It just has to be a thing that people start, just like everything else that has happened, even the negative stuff, trends and things like that. Feminism, like a lot of things have happened. Sometimes people just have to start doing certain things. So when
you start doing certain things, though, if the Most High doesn't bless it, then it's doomed to fail. It's bound to fail.
Well, right, but if it's done in His name, just like the Messiah said,
yes.
If you do it in any other way, you're a thief and a robber. You have to go through Him. When it's done properly and in His name, then it succeeds. We have already awakened. So that was the main, that's the key ingredient for this formula.
Mm-hmm.
We have already awakened. We trust the Most High, and when we do things according to His will, and we also have to be led to do it, of course. But when we do it according to His will, that's when it works. That's why the civil rights movement didn't work. We didn't do it properly. We didn't awaken. We didn't serve Him properly. We're not keeping the laws.
We're doing it in a Eurocentric type of way. That's what it was.
Exactly. Marching and silly stuff like that. But now we got it right. Now we've got it right. We understand this now, and we know the formula. Now it succeeds.
Now, you know something, your brother Yakoba. I want to let you know, man, that December 31st night of prayer. I'm telling you, that is still actually resonating. The ripples in the water is still spreading out, brother. I just want to let you know that.
Well, I'm glad you say that because that cult leader over there, Zabaya, say we was nothing but a group of pagans coming together.
You know, he's gonna have his day.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's not gonna
she,
be a
but I
good
think
day.
you're right.
Well, yeah, she's a devil inside, but yeah.
And then her little lackeys, they love to like come on there and comment on the wall, and they be like getting mad because I don't post a thing. I'm like, y'all started this fight. Y'all think I'm gonna allow your post on my channel? Is you stupid? You know, what's wrong with you? You know, I'm like, I don't go over on their channels and expect them to put my post on their wall. You know. Anyway, I digress, brother Dave. So in terms of our unity, you think that's going to happen? Because I think I sort of agree with everybody that is happening. I think we're coming together because it's through Yeshua and repentance first, and we identify now as a people. What's your thought, brother Dave? You there, brother Dave?
I'm sorry, sir. I stepped away for a minute. Say that again.
I was saying, what do you think about the unity, right? Because Brother Keaton and Oral was saying, and I agree with him that, you know, we're doing it different now because we repent, we're seeking Yeshua, and we're identifying as a people again, as Israelites. So what's your thoughts? Unity happening?
Oh, it's definitely happening. It's definite. Now, what we don't know is the numbers game, how much of it is happening, but it's definitely happening. And like I said, everything is going according to plan. And we ain't got much time. I just feel it in my heart, the dreams I'm having, you know, it's time. Like I'm online looking right now, you know, where I want to go to. You know, I'm already planning ahead. Matter of fact, I'm working on packing my bag right now. Because when this stuff goes down, I'm gonna be doing 90 in the underbrush.
Well, brother Karras said he gonna have a yacht to take him over to Cuba. Ain't that right, brother Karras?
Oh, look, I'm gonna hijack me a cruise ship. It's gonna be Under Siege 3, brother, going back to the land.
I'm gonna say, brother Karras, come sweep me up over here.
And y'all remember they
Hey, brother Karras, hey, brother Karras, remember, I'm the closest one to you, so you better not forget me, buddy.
All right. I'm gonna roll up into that cruise ship there at Port Canaveral. Okay, it's gonna be like Under Siege 3. Negroes out of control.
You gonna have on your captain outfit like Chance the Rapper.
That's a good one.
With the beret. The beret.
All right, so let's get final comments. We're gonna start with you. Let's start with brother Doug.
All right, good enough. I can find something to say. So I was just thinking, like you guys talking about ships, getting on ship and how we might mass move and the unity. And I think it's going to take, it's going to take something that shocks Negroes to their core all at once at the same time in this country that associate themselves with the past. I mean, for me, it's Negroes that associate themselves with the present that are most lost, those that are so quick to join in on all that we see happening against us, moving against us, throwing their hats in. Unity is going to have to come at the cost of sacrifice. And I think that final exam is going to come when it's, challenged to stay or leave. I think, everything else is just superficial, in my opinion. Everything that we talk about how woke our community is, how all of this is happening. I agree on the surface. But when they call us to account and say, okay, y'all who have been complaining about being here for so long, we got to wait for you to leave. All you got to do is pack your gear and be right there. And then we're going to separate the wheat from the chaff. We'll see who's serious about this and who's surface. That's all I got.
That's some good points, Doug Rice. I agree with you.
I'll be the first one in line, though, Doug.
Well, as long as it's not a gas
I'm
chamber.
already in line. I don't know where y'all talking about. Y'all better get behind me.
I hear you, Tayu. I hear you, brother Tayu.
Brother Andres, final comment?
Okay, I want to kind of introduce another word. We have a word for some of these, our people that come against us that kind of rhymes with raccoon.
Yeah.
But I think back to World War II, after D-Day, when the Allies went into France and liberated France. And they had another word for those people. And that word was collaborateur.
Yeah.
And they dealt with those people in a particular way. Now, I'm not saying for us to do that, but I do think some of these people need to have something like that in the back of their mind of them going against their own people. There may be consequences in the future. And with that, I'll rest.
I'm not sure some of them are people. Final comment, Brother Oral?
Yes. Again, it's always a wonderful thing to be a part of this panel. So thank you and your brother and all the wonderful panel members. I just feel so honored just to be a part of it. For me, I believe the Most High is going to have to do something supernatural to get us all on one accord. It has to be something big and supernatural because we're so splintered and we're so programmed by the one-eyed monster and YouTube and all these different programming that they continue to put on us. So it has to be something supernatural for us to be out here. But I would say, yes, we will be out of here, but I still say it's going to be more than a year, and I'll stop from that.
Final comment, Brother Keith?
You know, I would encourage everyone to pay attention. I mean, you know, continue to watch channels like this. Pay attention because these things are going down. They will continue to go down. They will continue to get worse. And I think that like the Exodus will happen in different ways and in waves. I think some people will start to prepare early, like look at these different countries that they could possibly go to back in the land, and they'll check the immigration policies. Even if they can't move, you know, they'll start to look into it. And I think that will be wise because there may be an opportunity that arises that allows, you know, people to go and maybe in a way or in ways they hadn't thought of before. So you'll have those people. Some people will, you know, try to make that trek, you know, ahead of time, if you will. But for those who don't, they'll have a situation where they may be a refugee, which is an entirely different situation. And as Brother Karras mentioned before and on other occasions about, you know, how things work when it comes to refugees, you know, being moved. And of course, you know, you'll have things like the camps, if you will. That's a totally different type of situation. And then to some extent, you know, of course, you're in the hands of the Most High, but you'll be at the mercy of others in a different way if you have to be a refugee versus someone who leaves. So pay attention, you all. It's going down, and Minister Yakoba, Minister Tayu, I'm pretty sure you all will have many, many, many more opportunities to talk about new developments because things will just continue to get worse. Things will continue to unfold, and you'll have many twists and turns to this saga that is like world events right now. And people just need to, you know, pay attention and pray. I said before, and I'll continue to say, make sure your relationship with the Most High is tight because you're going to need it. These are the last days. Things are going to be happening. It's not going to get better. Some people will try to say, oh, you know, I prophesied things will get better. It's a new year. No. It's going to get worse, increasingly worse. So what are you going to do about it? So keep your relationship with the Most High tight. Pay attention. Maybe if you're led to consider at least looking at other options so you can have some things in mind, you know, should the opportunity arise for you to be able to leave. But pay attention.
I agree with you 100 on that one.
Final comment, Brother Karras.
Okay, so one thing that we kind of overlooked a little bit here was why Janet Yellen was traveling, and on top of that, the debt ceiling. What do they say? They don't have to worry about anything until when? June. We're already in a period of default. It just means that some things are getting paid, some countries are not getting paid. And those countries that aren't getting paid, they're mad, right? They're letting. Do you understand that is the literal hush money that gets paid, the bribes that get paid out? And now these bribes aren't getting paid out anymore. The protection money's not being paid out. Well, guess what's going to start happening? And I guarantee you will probably start happening. You're going to probably get more and more, I would say, state actors coming through with different social media platforms targeting the people because they're going to say, hey, you know, you have the people there. You know, you have this. You know, you have that. That's just, in my opinion, something that may happen, right? But that is a very ominous date. I'm going to tell you this. They set dates for us. The people that actually tell us when the time is happening, believe it or not, they put it there in ink and paper with 400 years. And then we hit 2020. And now look at what's happening in June. Well, that's about what, 90 days after Passover? I mean, and I'm not saying it's going to be in June, but I'm just going to say, let's look at the signs right there because things are becoming more and more expensive. And guess what? If you don't have a debt ceiling in place to what? Borrow money. Well, now you can't borrow anything, so everything's going to be more expensive. There's no cushion anymore. So now, when there's no cushion, guess what? People are going to be paying now $50, $60 for a loaf of bread. Who's going to be able to afford that? So these are the things that we have to consider when, it's like, look, don't worry about how our people will think. Because by the time that it comes here, that the Most High wants us to be gone, people are going to be running for the exits because it's not going to be very tolerable. That's all I got to say. Hallelujah.
Brother Don P., final comment?
Well, I've been just being prayerful on, Father, when you want me to do it, how do you want me to do it? Because I know it's got to happen. I know I got to get up out of here. I don't love this place. I don't like this place. Matter of fact, I can't stand this place. This place is going to get exactly what it deserves. And I just want to be ready in all facets of my life. Ready when he says, okay, move. Go. Because it's going to happen. I mean, he spoke it, and he can't be true. He can't be just if his word doesn't come to pass. I put that on everything. My whole life on his word. So, just praying the ears to hear and the eyes to see when the Father says green light. I land there.
Brother Dave, final comment?
I got an assignment for everybody. I want you to sit down when you get a little free time, write out a list of things you plan on taking with you. And I mean, it might be old records, high school diploma, all your stuff, and get some suitcases or however you plan on leaving with. I got a giant backpack. I'm gonna throw stuff in there and throw it on my back and get in boogieing. Write down a list of stuff you're gonna need, because when this stuff goes down, you're gonna be in a state of panic, and you're gonna forget some things. So now's the time to settle your mind down, figure out what you're gonna take, what you're gonna leave, and start packing it and leave your thing by the door. I told you, 6 months. 6 months. This is going to go down. That's all I got to say.
All right. And also, you might want to take a picture of all those family albums and stuff, put them in the cloud, right? Because you ain't going to be thinking about taking them pictures with you, and you're going to be forgetting what grandmother and grandpa look like. Minister, tell you, final comment?
Assuming the cloud is still here, right? Put it on a digital drive.
Yeah, right. Digital drive, yeah.
Yeah. So, good conversation. So, I say, look at those raccoons, like Yap and Berin, If you notice, we can't have anything. We can't be nobody without sharing it. We can't be Israel without sharing it, right? We have to have a race doctrine because we say Israel is a Negro people, right? But if I tell you the Native American Indian or so-called American natives, that's okay. If I say, they from America and they got that shiny black hair, that's okay. But when it come to Israel, because Israel is the most famous, infamous people in the history of the planet, you gotta share that. We can't have nothing, right? We have to share our identity with these people, and our own people are trying to do that when they know DNA don't back them up, common sense don't back them up, history don't back them up, right? And I mean, some of our people, they still in that matrix. I got family members that completely in the matrix. They want to eat that digital steak because it tastes good and they like that digital steak. And the Most High really just gonna have to unplug them. It's gonna be uncomfortable, it's gonna be uneasy, but I think the way they get unplugged is when the people that they worship show them the other side, right? You know how the vampire comes out and he looks all good, but then when you see him in the mirror, you see the true image of the vampire. When they see the true image of the vampire and they realize the vampire didn't leave them alone, when they realize that same spirit that came against their forefathers never left, that same spirit is retargeting them, they gonna wake up. They gonna wake up and don't want that digital steak no more. They gonna want to leave. That's all I have to say.
You talking about the Matrix there, huh, Minister Tell you?
That's what we in, but some of them stuck deep in it and they fighting their own people to stay in it. I mean, it's insane.
That's once again, that's why when I talk about the agents, how to spot an agent, right? You got to learn how to spot an agent because we got agents. Don't get it twisted.
Oh, they
agents
at work.
all up in here, huh?
Oh, they at work. Yeah, they all around us. Some of them you think pro-Israel until they start opening their mouth and trying to come up with some new doctrine or share your inheritance with other people.
Yeah, I mean, you got people who saying, you got people who claim to be Israel calling us black Hebrew Israelites, fighting for the Khazarians. Can't make it make sense, please. Somebody, please make it make sense. They call themselves Israelites, but they fighting for the Khazarians, and they calling you black Hebrew Israelites. Okay, what'd that tell you? What'd that tell you? I ain't got to say no more, right? But here's the thing, fam, and my final comments. The scripture talks about that there will be birth pains, and as we see these pains increase, these signs increase, is the time for the delivery of the child. I don't know about you, but I see a whole bunch of birth pains and they like next to each other. So that's why I say I think it's near, because the contractions are nearer and nearer, right? See, before the contractions were far out. Now it's like I pretty much gotta end up doing the show every day now because there's something new every day, like Brother Kara said. There's a new sign, a new prophetic event happening, right? There's transgenics, right? There's wars, rumors of wars. There's racial strife. There's just you name it, everything the Bible talks about, and it's all happening what? At the same time. The contractions are closer and closer, which denotes the arrival of the child. And so the scripture says, in one day, in one moment, right? One day, one moment, the birth of that nation gonna happen. So it can happen tomorrow. It can happen next month. It can happen in April. It can happen this year. Yeah, it can. You see, everybody's comfortable taking the long route. Everybody's comfortable pushing it out. The further out you push it out, the further out people are going to say, well, what happened? You said it was going to happen tomorrow and it didn't happen, right? I understand that, right? But, sometimes I think it's fun for us to speculate based upon what we see, based upon our understanding. That's why I like Sister Brandy's, the way she thinks, right? Because she'll tell you, this is what I see. This is how I see it. You ain't got to agree with it, but it's good to speculate. sometimes it's fun to put together what we see and share with the family and get different viewpoints on what the scripture says and how it might pan out. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But see, when you got agents in the midst, the agent's going to take your stuff out of context. See, if you go read that little article I put at tailministries.com about how to spot an agent, right? They use those techniques on us. The Yap gang used the same techniques. Berean TV used the same techniques. Abu used the same techniques. They all use the same techniques. Is it a coincidence? Or maybe they're an agent. So, panel, I want to thank y'all for being on. Thank y'all, Covenant Awakenings, Oral, Doug Rice, Andre, Brother Keith, Brother Don, Brother Dave, and Minister Tayu. And like I mentioned on the other show, I'm going to try to schedule something for those who have had supernatural encounters where the Most High Yah intervened in your life, gave you visions, gave you dreams, or physical rescue, right? I mean, supernatural stuff. So if you want to be a part of that, I'm going to be setting that up maybe by the end of the week, maybe Friday or Saturday. So, all right, y'all. Thank y'all for coming on. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you for having us. Shalom.
Thank you, Minister.
Right.
Thank you, panel.
Thank you, brothers.
All right. I enjoyed it, guys. And, you know, this is good. Maybe we get some of them girls on here next time. You know, I know Sister Chantel, she be up for Brother Kerry.
I was surprised she wasn't here. I was expecting her.
I think it's a bit too late for her.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, it's probably it's probably about 4 or something in the morning over there.
Yeah. But Sister Betty, I wish Sister Betty was on here, but we'll catch her next round. All right, fam. Love y'all with the love of the Messiah. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Love you with the love of the Messiah. And if you like what we do, you can become a patron or support us through Cash App. And please support the Dry Bones Project.